Hello, welcome to Melody Joy Quilts. I have been letting the fear of partial seams stop me from trying this pattern for some time. I've had this book for about a year and a half, and I've been wanting to make this pattern called Twist Away the Night, but I was intimidated because you have to make these blocks, and the way that you get them to encircle the entire center square is with partial seams. For whatever reason, I was so intimidated by the concept of a partial seam that I've been putting off making this pattern for like over a year. But today I was like, you know what? Today's the day we're gonna conquer partial seams. I did the first couple blocks and I was like, I have no idea why I let this scare me for so long. Probably the same reason I'm scared of doing curves. There's just something, the fear of the unknown. But I'm gonna show you how incredibly simple and easy partial seams are, and then we can all laugh about why I was scared. No reason to be. I'm gonna start with my center square. All the pattern directions are in the pattern. I'll put a link to the pattern book below. You're gonna take your first strip. You can use two colors that contrast a lot. In this case, I'm using two that are fairly similar. This is considered my dark and this one's considered my light or medium, but they're basically similar. But for the purposes of this video, we're gonna call this one the dark strip. I'm gonna take my square, pretty side up, and take my dark strip. And now if you notice, right now what's happening is that this strip is longer than my square, and that's okay. All I'm gonna do right now is line up along one side. I'm gonna start from the top. This is where the partial seam comes in. I'm only gonna sew about halfway down, and then I'm gonna stop. Do a little back stitch since I'm stopping in the middle. Normally I keep things going through with enders and leaders and so on, but for this partial seam, you have to actually stop and cut your thread. Okay, so now your block should look something like this. And all I'm gonna do right now is just kind of finger press it a little bit over. You can also apply a little bit of iron, but a little bit of heat so that you press it open. And you can see, there's a thread on here. It now looks something like this, but it's only sewn halfway. Okay, so from here, I'm gonna take what's considered my lighter strip. Now, when I lay this across the top, it's gonna fit perfectly. When I lay this one across the top, because I've added this here, this will now fit perfectly from corner to corner. So I'm just gonna hold that on here, and I'm gonna sew this one on. Okay, so now my block looks like this. I'm gonna lay this down. I'm gonna just iron to set the seam. I'm gonna open it up with my hand and just kind of make sure it's looking pretty straight and iron that out a little bit. Okay, so now it's looking like this. I'm gonna take my next dark piece of fabric and we're gonna put it here. So we're working our way around the square and it should line up perfectly. So we're just gonna go right sides together. I'm gonna turn this. I'm using my 1/4 inch foot for me. There's a couple different 1/4 inch feet for the Bernina. I've tried a couple different of them. The number 97 is my favorite foot on this. So I'm gonna sew this down. We're already almost done. Again, I have no idea why I let the concept of a partial seam stop me from choosing patterns that had that. It's making me question patterns that I write off in my mind because I'm like, oh, that looks kind of hard. And then I actually do it and I'm like, it's not that bad. Okay, so now it's looking like this. I'm gonna add this last light block here along what I'm gonna call the bottom. And it's fitting perfectly right now from corner to corner. I think you can tell I like the color teal. They show this pattern in two different colorways in the book, once in purples and once in teals, and I just loved the teals. And I had similar fabrics. Okay, so now you should have something that looks kind of like this. Okay, so this is the only slightly tricky part, but it's not that bad. You're gonna fold this back over. Now, it's not gonna be completely flat because there's a seam allowance going along here, but just fold this back over as best you can. And what I did was I did go ahead and press this because it's kind of gotten a little bit bent up, and maybe this is just me being extra, but I gave it a little press, and then I'm just holding it. I'm making sure that these ends are lined up. I've sewn to right here, so I'm gonna start probably like 2 stitch lengths behind that. Okay. And I'm gonna do a little back stitch, and then I'm just gonna come down to the end. That's it. I don't know why this intimidated me for so long. Literally had that pattern book for about 1.5 years, and I don't know why I just let that intimidate me, because now that I've been doing it, I'm like, this is not that bad. So then I'm gonna open this up, and I'm just gonna kind of, every time I'm pressing out away from the center, my center is lighter, so I'm pressing towards the outside, towards the teal fabric every time. I'm gonna give that a little press. And now we've fully enclosed our little block. And if you look at the back here, you have to make that partial seam to be able to fully go all the way around the block with it looking almost woven, because so the partial seam allows you to achieve that kind of woven look. So anyway, if you want to know what I'm doing with this, I made a quilt top. This quilt top is the Aurora quilt top from Fabric Cafe's fabulous 5-yard quilt book, and I just finished this. And I was trying to decide what to do on the back of it, and I had quite a bit of the fabrics left that are from the front, and I thought, you know what? I might just make a second quilt. These quilts actually, both these 2 quilts have almost the exact same dimensions in the finished quilts, so I'm actually gonna make a pieced back. There's another quilt pattern I wanna try, and they both end up almost very similar sizes, throw size quilts, and so I'm making a second quilt to be the backing for this quilt. And I'm challenging myself with partial seams. So here's to learning and growing new things. I hope y'all have a blessed day. Thank you for joining me.